6 white water trucks were crawling up the cart path of a dead golf course, and every man watching them was a homeowner. 16 weeks earlier, the Cordera Ridge HOA fined my old hay barn $23,000 and sued to tear it down. By then, it was $9,000 a week in trucked water, 18 dead fairways, and a canceled invitational tournament. Not one of those 214 homeowners knew where their sprinklers had been drinking. And it all began with one letter. My name is Earl Jennings, and I've cut hay on the same 340 acres my whole life. My grandfather put his name on that ground in 1936. My father, Harlan, was born in the front bedroom of our farmhouse, and so was I. What we own is flat, brown in April, green in June, and in July it smells like money. Cut alfalfa curing in the sun is sweet and a little sharp, like strong tea with pepper in it. The rest of it is the house, the shop, and the cedar hay barn my dad put up in 1961. 40 by 90, silver boards gone soft at the corners. A sliding door on a rail that's needed grease since I was in high school. My son Wade is 26 and he brings that rail up about once a month. I could fix that in an afternoon. You could. So it's been sticking since 1994, I tell him, and it hasn't cost us a bale yet. We've had that argument 40 times. And at the north end, in a bowl under 3 old cottonwoods, there's the pond. It's spring-fed. 4 acres of cold water that comes up out of the ground and doesn't care how dry the summer gets. My grandfather's right to that water was written down in 1936 and confirmed by a judge in 1949. It's the most valuable thing my family will ever hold, and it doesn't look like anything. At the outlet there's a headgate, concrete weir, 2 bays, and a big spoked wheel on a stem that lifts the south gate when you turn it. The north bay is a plank slide, and the north ditch is the one that waters my hay. The south ditch runs the other way, down the fence line. My dad painted that wheel red every June. Not because it needed paint, because his father had. There's still a coffee can of that paint on the shelf inside the barn door, with a brush standing in it, stiff as a shingle. The morning I'm telling you about, I was down there with a grease gun, working the chain on that gate. Dee's my wife, 31 years this fall, and she's the large animal vet for this county, which means she knows more people than I do and likes fewer of them. She rolled her window down and asked if I needed anything from town. Chain grease. You bought chain grease Tuesday. Then I'd like to be certain, I said, and she drove off shaking her head. You can hear the golf course from that pond. Past our north fence there's Cordera Ridge, 214 houses wrapped around 18 holes of the greenest grass in this county. It went in back in 1985. The association came later, in 2008, and by then the place had rules about mailbox color. Every morning at 4, their sprinklers come on. You can hear them from our kitchen with the window shut. Tick, 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 all the way down the fence line like a clock counting something out. That's a lot of water for grass, Dee said once. It is. Doesn't bother you? Not one bit, I told her, and meant it. I listened to that sound for 41 years, and never once stopped to think about it. Then I walked down the lane for the mail, and there was an envelope in the box with a gold crest printed on it. The letter came on the 2nd of March. Heavy cream paper, Cordera Ridge Homeowners Association across the top, and under that, in bold, notice of non-conforming structure. I handed it to Dee, because she reads faster than I do, and out loud when she's mad. The structure identified below materially impairs the protected viewshed from the 18th fairway, she read. What structure? Your dad's hay barn, Earl. She turned the page. Excessive height, non-conforming exterior finish. And hold on, I want to get this one exactly right, and has been observed to be in a state of visible agricultural use. That's a barn, I said, on a farm. I'm aware of that. Read me the rest. Removal within 30 days, $500 to start, and $150 a day from the 6th day on until it comes down. She set it on the table and took her glasses off. Signed, Susan Albright, President. 30 days to take it down, and the meter starts on day 6. Now, understand that barn. My father built it 11 years before I was born. It sits 400 feet from their fairway on my ground, and it stood there 24 years before the first golf cart rolled through Cordera Ridge. I called the number on the letterhead. Cordera Ridge Patrol, this is Trey. Earl Jennings, I need the president. Compliance questions go through the president, sir. That's what I just said. She'll call you, he said, and hung up. She called at 7:10 that night while Dee was setting the table. Mr. Jennings, I'm glad you reached out. I want you to know that none of this is personal. Ma'am, I'm not in your association. There was a little pause. When she came back, her voice was patient, the way you'd talk to a man who can't read a menu. Cordera Ridge adopted a view and architectural amendment in 2019, she said. It covers every parcel adjoining the course. Your parcel adjoins the course. I never signed anything. You didn't have to. It was properly recorded at the county. Recorded by who? By us, she said. I stood in my kitchen holding that phone and felt the floor tilt about 2 degrees. Here's what people don't know. The county recorder will record just about anything you hand across the counter with a fee attached. Recording a document and having a right to it are 2 different animals, and the paper looks the same either way. Mrs. Albright, my family has been on this ground since 1936, and it's lovely ground, she said. It just isn't going to have that barn on it. 2 days later, I was mowing the ditch bank when I heard a sound like a swarm of hornets. A drone, 60 feet over my barn roof, running straight lines the way you'd mow a lawn. It worked the building, then the shop, then the length of the pond, and went home over the fence. Wade came out of the shop with a chunk of scrap iron in his hand. Put it down, I said. Dad, that thing is over our house. Put it down, Wade. Why? Because the second we do one wrong thing, we're the story, I said. Right now, they're the story. I'd like to keep it that way. He put it down. He wasn't happy, and he stood there watching that drone until it was a dot. On the 7th of March, the daily charge started running. I know the day because they mailed me a statement about it with a bar graph on the second page. Dee looked at that bar graph a long time. Earl, she said. They made a chart. That was the morning I got in the truck and drove up to the club office. The Cordera Ridge Clubhouse is a long white building with a green roof and a porch that looks down the 18th fairway. I put on a clean shirt and brought a folder with tabs in it. The 1936 deed, the assessor's map with our line in red, our water certificate. I'd stayed up doing it. Susan Albright came out from the back with a phone on her shoulder and a leather folio under her arm. A small woman. Everything about her pressed. She finished her call, looked at my folder, and did not sit down. Not once in 11 minutes. Mr. Jennings, you could have emailed. I'd like you to look at this. I opened the folder on the counter. That's our deed. That's the property line. Your amendment covers your association. My ground has never been in it. She glanced at it, about as long as you'd look at a receipt you already knew the total of. Our attorney is comfortable. Your attorney hasn't seen my deed. Our attorney doesn't need to. Ma'am, nobody gets to vote himself into my chain of title. And nobody gets to ignore a recorded instrument, she said. Then she pulled a single sheet out of the folio and slid it across the glass. This is a compliance resolution. You sign it, you agree to remove the structure by the 1st of May. and the board waives half the accrued amount. That's a genuine courtesy, and it expires Friday. And if I don't sign it, then it continues to accrue. For how long? Mr. Jennings, she said, that is entirely up to you. Behind me, the pro shop had gone quiet, the way a room goes quiet when everybody is listening and nobody is looking. One of the members by the clubs was Nadine Fisk, who buys hay off me for her daughter's horses every fall. Morning, Nadine. She studied her own shoes. Mrs. Albright, I said, did anybody on your board look at a map before they mailed that letter? Our compliance work is reviewed. By who? Mr. Jennings. I'm not going to litigate this at a counter. Then let me say it one more time, plain. I am not a member of your association. You cannot find me. And that is when she said the thing I'll be hearing when I'm 80. She looked past me, out the window, down that long green fairway. Everything you see out that window is Cordera Ridge, Mr. Jennings, including you. Then she picked up her folio and walked into the back. Trey Vogel came around the end of the counter with his thumbs hooked in his belt. Office is closed for lunch. I'll walk you out. I know where the door is. I'll walk you out, he said. And he did, the whole 40 feet, one stride behind my left shoulder like I might make off with a golf cart. Have a good one, Mr. Jennings, he said at the cab door. I sat there with my hands on the wheel, in my clean shirt, my folder full of tabs on the seat beside me. Here's the part they didn't know. That golf course does not have any water. It never has. No well, no canal, no irrigation line off the district, nothing. Every drop out of those sprinklers, all 18 holes of it, comes down my south ditch and into a 10-inch pipe their club laid 400 feet below my head gate in 1985, with my father standing right there watching them do it. Their booster pump sits on my ditch bank. It pulls out of my ditch and my ditch fills when I turn that wheel. And in 41 years, not one single person ever wrote that down. That night, Dee put a plate in front of me and stood there until I looked up. You didn't tell her. No. Earl, if I tell that woman on a Monday that her golf course drinks out of our pond, what does she hear? She hears a threat. And then I'm the man who dried up a golf course over a fine on a barn. I put my fork down. I have to live in this valley, Dee. So does Wade. She sat down across from me and pushed her glasses up into her hair, which is what she does before she says something I'm not going to enjoy. Then be smarter than the both of us, she said. So I tried to be decent. Looking back, that was the dumbest thing I did in this whole business, and I did it with my whole heart. On the 16th of March, I wrote Susan Albright a letter. 2 pages, typed by Dee, printed on the good paper. I told her the truth. The club's intake sat on our land, and had since 1985, on a handshake between her club's first manager and my father, and nothing had ever been recorded. Nobody in my family had ever charged them a dime for it. Then I made her an offer. I'd have a surveyor draw the pipe corridor, a lawyer write a permanent easement, and record it at my own expense, so Cordera Ridge would have that water in writing forever. All I wanted back was the barn notice, withdrawn. I sent it certified. Dee drove it to town herself. A week later, the answer came, and Dee read it to me, standing at the counter with her coat still on. The board has entered your correspondence into the compliance file, she read. Fine. Your letter constitutes an admission that you claim control over association infrastructure. She stopped. Earl. Keep going. And that you have threatened the community's irrigation supply in order to obtain relief from a valid assessment. She looked up. That's the whole letter, Earl. A week after that, on the 30th of March, they doubled the daily amount to $300 for continuing and aggravated violation. Susan called me herself that evening. She sounded pleased in a way that made my ears hot. "Mr. Jennings, you have just put in writing that you believe you own our water. I'd be very careful with that. Ma'am, I offered to give it to you. You offered to trade it," she said. "That's a different thing, and the board sees it clearly. Do you know where that pipe goes? I know exactly what our members pay for," she said, "and it isn't your barn." Then she hung up. Wade found me in the shop that night sitting on an overturned bucket. He'd read the letter. He was 26, and he was done being reasonable. "One turn of that wheel," he said. "One. And Monday morning they're calling you. And Tuesday morning a judge asks me why I did it. So tell him why." "The honest answer is because they made me mad," I said. "Son, that's a losing answer. That's exactly how a man with the law on his side loses anyway. So we just sit here. For now, we sit here. Grandpa wouldn't have sat here." "Your grandpa gave them the water for $1, I said. "So, let's not pretend we know what he'd do." He kicked the bucket out from under me on his way to the door, which I felt was fair. On the 6th of April, the next envelope came. Notice of intent to record a lien. Remove the structure by the 1st of May, or they'd record against our farm and start foreclosure for the full amount. At the bottom, it listed a running total: $10,900 for a barn my father built with his own hands. On the 15th of April, I was setting handlines when Wade came across the ditch bank at a dead run. There was a backhoe on our place. They'd come in through the south gate, the one we never lock because it goes nowhere but the ditch. 4 men, a backhoe, a flatbed with a pallet of fittings. They had cut 60 feet of our fence out and laid it flat so the flatbed could get through, and the flatbed had crossed a stand of alfalfa I'd seeded 8 months earlier. Ruts 8 inches deep, both directions twice. They were pouring a pad for a bigger booster pump on my south ditch bank. I walked down with my hands open at my sides because Wade was behind me, and I wanted him to see it done that way. Trey Vogel had his cart turned sideways in the lane. "Sir, this is an infrastructure maintenance window. You'll want to stay back from the equipment." "Trey, this is my field." "It's a maintenance window," he said again, like it was a spell that worked. "Whose infrastructure?" "The association's." "Son, show me one thing out here with the association's name on it." He put his hand on his radio and didn't answer. The man running the crew was Marcus Reyes, the golf course superintendent. Knows more about dirt than most people know about their own children. He stood at the form boards with a level and did not look up at me. "Marcus?" "Mr. Jennings." "Who told you to dig on my ground?" He set the level down very carefully on the board. He looked at the pond and not at me. "I get told where to dig," he said. "That's the whole job." "Who told you?" "The president." And then, quieter, "I put it in an email, both times." "What did you put in it?" "Nothing you don't already know," Marcus said, and picked the level back up. I went to the house and got the good camera, and then I did the only thing a man in my position can do that actually counts for anything. "Hold the tape at the post," I told Wade, "both ends in the frame. You're taking pictures." 42 of them. "Dad, they've got a backhoe." "And we've got a date stamp," I said. "Move down to the ruts." He held that tape an hour and never said another word, which for Wade is a kind of miracle. The cut fence. The ruts, with a boot in frame for scale. The pad. Then I called the county, and the deputy who came out walked the fence line with me twice. "You want to press this?" he asked. "I want it written down." "That's not the same thing." "No," I said, "but it lasts longer." The extension agent came 2 days later and put a number on it. $4,200 for the fence, the seated corner, and the gravel. I filed the report number in the folder with the tabs. Friday night, Dee had the quarterly book spread across the kitchen table, sorting receipts into piles with a butter knife. "They sent it again," she said. "Sent what?" "The dollar." She held a check up between two fingers and waved it at me. "Every January, a check from the golf club for $1. All the years I've been doing these books, I copy it, I file the copy, and then I take the original to the bank and stand there while a 19-year-old asks me if I'm sure. Today, he asked if I wanted it in cash. What did you tell him? I told him to put it in the account with the rest of our fortune. Your father's rule, not mine. Copy first, then the bank. That's my girl. It's $1, Earl," she said, and dropped the copy in the shoebox with the other 40 and went back to her receipts. I didn't even look up from the paper. They recorded the lien on the 28th of April. It came with an itemized page, and Dee read it out at the table, because the itemizing is the part that tells you who you're dealing with. Initial non-conforming structure fee, $500. Continuing violation at $150 a day, 23 days, $3,450. Keep going. Continuing violation at $300 a day, 30 days, $9,000. Architectural review and aerial inspection fee, $2,750. That's the drone. That's the drone, she said. Second inspection and renotice fee, $1,800. Association legal fees under Article 9, $6,000. She set the page down. Total, $23,500. They charged us $2,750 to fly a drone over our barn, Dee said, and $6,000 for the lawyer who wrote the letter about the drone. Now, a lien is a strange animal. It takes nothing from you the day it lands. It just sits there on your title like a wet coat, and everything you try to do afterward is heavier. 3 days later, Ridgeline Dairy called. 19 years we've sold that dairy hay. 900 tons a season, $121,000 on a signed sheet of paper every spring. Their buyer is a man named Dave Kessel, and he did not enjoy the call. "Earl, your operating loan got kicked back." "Kicked back for what?" "Encumbrance on the ground. Your bank pulled the seasonal note this morning." "It's a fake lien, Dave. There's no debt behind it." "I believe you," he said. "But I can't put 900 tons of my feed on a supplier who can't finance his own crop. If it clears by August, you call me." "Will you hold the tonnage?" "I can't. I'm sorry. And Earl, I'll be honest with you. I don't think it clears by August." Monday, the equipment dealer left a voicemail. The line of credit on the swather and the big baler was suspended pending review. Same reason, same wet coat. So there it was, 3 weeks out from first cutting. No operating money, no contract, no credit on the machines, and a paper at the courthouse saying my family's ground was security for a debt to an association we never joined. Wade came in that night with his hat still on, which Dee doesn't allow, and neither of us said a word about it. "Bo Whitlock's outfit is hiring drivers," he said. "Out of state. $84,000 and they pay the license." I looked at him a while. "When did you talk to Bo?" "Tuesday." "And what did you tell him?" "I told him I'd let him know by the 15th, Wade said. "Dad, there's no crop this year. There's no money. You want me to stand around here and watch you lose it?" "Sit down." "I'm not sitting down." "Wade." "Grandpa put that barn up in a summer," he said from the door. "It's been 3 months and you've put up a folder." And he was right. That's what made it land. I went down to the pond that night. There was still light on the water. I sat on the weir with my boots hanging over and put my hand on that red wheel, cold as a pump handle, and stayed there a long time. I want to ask you something, and I'd like an honest answer down in the comments. If it was your father's barn and your father's water, and the paper said you owed them $23,500 for the privilege of owning it, how much longer would you have stayed polite than I did? Because here's what I did that night. Nothing. I went up to the house and slept about 4 hours. And Wednesday morning, when I came out to start the loader, there was a mud-colored pickup at my field gate with the engine off and the window down. Marcus Reyes was behind the wheel with a folder on his knees. Marcus didn't get out. He handed the folder through the window and kept both hands on the wheel, the way a man does when he's decided something. "I'm going to lose this job," he said. "Marcus, just read it." 3 things were in that folder. The first was a page of club board minutes from October of 1985, photocopied crooked. The course had no water source of record. Mr. H. Jennings had extended the use of his spring as a revocable courtesy, and the club would tender $1 annually in acknowledgement that the use was by permission and not by right. By permission and not by right. Somebody wrote that down in 1985, and everybody forgot it for 41 years. The second was a stack of irrigation logs. Gallons per day, month by month, back 9 years, every column headed the same way. Jennings' intake. The third was 11 pages out of the club's 2021 refinance package. Marcus had it because the irrigation system was collateral and he'd certified the pump specs. Page 14 was a sworn promise to the lender that the course was, and I'm quoting, irrigated in perpetuity pursuant to a recorded easement across the adjoining Meadow Springs parcel. Signed at the bottom. Susan Albright, President. "There's no easement," I said. "No, sir." She signed that there was. She signed a lot of things that year, Marcus said. He put the truck in gear. I told 2 boards. I put it in an email in 2022. They told me to quit putting things in email. "Why now?" "Because they dug on your ground," he said, "and then charged you for the drone." Then he drove off, and I stood in my lane holding the whole thing. 2 days later, I was in Nora Beckwith's office with the folder and the shoebox. Nora talks fast and reads faster. She went through it twice, then took her glasses off and laughed once, which I did not expect. "Mr. Jennings," she said, "you don't have a case. You have 3. She laid it out with her finger. 1. Their amendment doesn't touch your land, because you never signed it, and nobody can vote your dirt into their club. The fines are worth nothing. The lien is a slander on your title, and that is a claim you file, not a defense you wait behind. 2. The club has no easement. It has a license. A license is permission, and permission can be withdrawn. They'll say 41 years is too long to take it back. They'll try," she said. "The argument is a prescriptive easement, and it needs the use to be hostile, openly against your wishes. Now show me the box." She went through it $1 at a time, and I watched her get happy. 41 checks, she said. Every one says permission. Every one says annual. They've been buying your permission for $1 a year for 4 decades and writing the reason on the check. They didn't just fail to get a right. They spent 41 years proving they never had one. "So, what do I do?" "Nothing," Nora said. I must have looked how I felt because she leaned in. "Listen to me. If you close that gate today, you are a man retaliating over a barn fine. If you close it the day they sue you, you are a man who finally stopped doing a favor for people who dragged him into court. Same valve, same water, completely different story, and judges are people." "And the club is its own outfit," I said. "Not the association." "On paper," Nora said. "The association is the sole member of that club, and it guaranteed the note. When the club falls, every house in there falls with it. They set that up themselves in 2008. Then she said one more thing and made me repeat it. Their houses are on the Ambler Valley District. Nobody's drinking water comes out of your pond. This is grass water. When they scream, you say that, and you keep saying it. On the 11th of May, Marcus called me from his truck. Their own attorney had ordered a title commitment on the club parcel. $1,400 with the survey. Susan canceled it. She said the association wasn't paying $1,400 to be told what it already owned. I hung up and sat down on the step, and for the first time since the 2nd of March, I felt the ground come back under me. Here's the thing. Nobody tells you about doing it the right way. It's slow, it's boring, and it's the most satisfying work I've ever done. Nora had one rule, and she said it every time we met. We tell them exactly what we're going to do, in writing, before we do it. That's a warning. That's a record, she said. There's a difference, and the difference is about $4 million. So that's what we built through the middle of May at my kitchen table. First, the notice. 2 pages. The club's use of the spring had always been a revocable license. It recited the 1985 minutes, listed all 41 annual payments by date, and revoked the license effective 14 days from the date of the notice itself. Why 14? I asked her. Because a courtesy doesn't legally require any notice at all, Nora said. I want the file to show we gave 2 full weeks anyway, dated on the face of the document, so nobody can argue about the mail. Second, the copy list. This is the part I'd never have thought of. The club, she said, the association, Meridian Valley Bank, and Ambler Title and Escrow. Why on earth would I write to their bank? Because their bank holds $4.6 million against that golf course, and their loan file says the water is theirs forever. Anybody with a recorded interest in a property gets notice. We're not being clever, Earl. We're being correct. She tapped the page. I will admit those 2 envelopes are my favorite. Third, the state. I signed a request to the county watermaster for a regulation check on our district. What does that do? Dee asked. Any water right holder can ask for one, Nora said. A man in a state truck comes out with a clipboard and a measuring staff and writes down who is diverting what and under whose right. It's routine. It's also a state officer standing in that field on a date nobody can move. I filed it on the 14th of May. The next opening on their calendar was the 30th of June. So that's the date they gave me, and I wrote it on the kitchen calendar in pencil, like a dentist appointment. 4th was Wade's idea. Trail camera, he said. On the cottonwood over the gate, the elk one. It stamps the date and the time in the corner. What am I filming? Dad, he said, you really don't know these people at all, do you? So we hung the camera. The notice went in Nora's drawer with the 4 envelopes on top of it, signed, undated, and unsent. We waited. I'd like to tell you I was calm about it. I wasn't. I was up at 4 every morning listening to those sprinklers tick down the fence line, and now the sound was different. Every tick was my water going over that fence for free, to a woman who had put a lien on my father's barn. First cutting came off the 3rd week of May, paid for with money my brother-in-law loaned us against his combine. How long do we wait, Wade asked, until they do something? And if they never do? Then they never sue me, I said, and I keep watering their grass for $1, and you and I go back to arguing about a door. Marcus told me how it went on their side. Word had gotten around that the hay farmer had hired Nora Beckwith, and at the next board meeting the club's own attorney asked the question out loud. Has anybody in this room, he said, ever actually seen the easement? And Marcus said Susan Albright never even looked up from her folio. He's bluffing, she said. He needs us more than we need him. That was the 18th of May. Everything was loaded by then. Everything was signed, and not one piece of it could move until they made the next move themselves. They filed on the 27th of May. 2 claims: remove the non-conforming structure and foreclose the lien on our farm. They served me the next morning at the hay scale in front of my crew. "Are you Earl Jennings?" "I am. I'm sorry about this, sir." "Don't be," I said, and signed with a grease pencil, because that's what was in my pocket. Wade read the caption page over my shoulder. "Dad, they're asking for the farm. They're asking for a lot of things. You're smiling." I am not smiling. I called Nora from the truck. All I said was, "It's filed." All she said was, "Then it's Friday." That Friday, the paper ran a notice. Community update at the 18th tee, 4 o'clock, members welcome. I'm not a member, but that tee box sits 90 feet off a county road, so I parked on the shoulder and walked up. 60 people, lemonade, an easel with a rendering on it. Cordera Ridge Estates, Phase 3. 40 home sites on ground I've cut hay on. Susan Albright stood up on the tee box in her red blazer with a microphone. "After years of patience," she said, "your board has taken decisive action to protect our views and our property values. The litigation is regrettable. It is necessary." Then she saw me at the rope. She had already won everything she was going to win that day. But she smiled and raised that microphone. "Mr. Jennings, you're welcome to stay. By Labor Day, that barn will be a memory, and this club will have its view back." They laughed, a few clapped, and the paper's photographer got a picture of me in the weeds, holding my hat. At 4:20 that afternoon, Nora walked to the recorder and put a date on a document. Notice of revocation of revocable license, indexed against both parcels. Then 4 certified envelopes: the club, the association, Meridian Valley Bank, Ambler Title and Escrow. Effective on all 4, the 12th of June. The green cards came back signed. The club's copy was signed for by Trey Vogel, then nothing. I called Marcus on the 8th. "Has anybody up there opened it?" "It's in a folder," he said. "A folder." "With your name on it. Their lawyer's back on the 15th. She said it can wait for him. The date on that letter's the 12th. "I know what the date is," he said. "I've told everybody in that building twice." On the 12th of June, around 6:30, we went down to the pond. "You want me to do it?" Wade said. "No." "Dad, your grandfather opened it," I said. "I'll close it." 1 wheel, 1 ditch. My dad split that weir into 2 bays the same summer he gave them the water, and never once said why. I put my hands on that red wheel and turned it. 14 full turns to seat that gate, and by the last 2 I was leaning on it. The south ditch went from a rush to a trickle to nothing. It ran another minute, quieter and quieter, then stopped, and the frogs started up like nothing had happened. I ran the chain through the spokes and locked it. 6:41 in the evening. It's in the picture, stamped in the corner. "That's it?" Wade said. 41 years, and it's a wheel." "It was always a wheel," I said. The North Bay kept running. My hay never missed. Nobody up there noticed for 7 hours. Then, at 2 in the morning, 6 irrigation pumps came on and found nothing to pull. Marcus told me 4 burned before anybody killed the breakers. Grass doesn't die all at once. That's the part I wasn't ready for. It went in stripes the way it had been watered. High ground on 7 and 12 first, a pale gray-green, like somebody had walked across it in dusty boots. Then the color drained out 1 head at a time. In long bands you could see from the county road. By the last week of June they were hauling water. 6 white tankers, 3 runs a day, $9,000 a week, keeping the greens alive and doing nothing for the fairways. On the 19th, they canceled the club invitational for the first time in 40 years. Susan Albright left me 9 voicemails in 6 days. I saved all of them. The first: whatever point you believe you're making, you've made it. Restore the flow today. The fourth: our attorney advises this is intentional interference, and we will add it to the action. The seventh: you are hurting 200 families over a barn. The ninth came at 11 at night, and she wasn't reading anything. Please call me back. There's something I need to check and I can't find it. I answered none of them. Everything I'd have said was in an envelope nobody at that club had opened. On the 30th of June, 7 vehicles came down my lane at 10. That was the regulation check I'd asked for on the 14th of May, on a date the state picked. The biggest morning of my life got scheduled by a government office because I filled out a form and waited. The watermaster was Wendell Cray. Wire rim glasses, khaki shirt, brass measuring staff. 22 years walking this valley. Behind him, a gray sedan with Alan Dorsey in it, senior credit officer at Meridian Valley Bank. Then the board, Susan, Roy Tibbetts, Peggy Lunsford, and their attorney, Colin Fahey. Marcus stood off by the cart path. Nora came with me. We walked out onto the 9th fairway. It crunched. Susan started before Cray had his door shut. "This man has shut off our irrigation in the middle of summer," she said. "I want a state order restoring flow." Cray never hurried once all morning. "Ma'am, before I order anybody to do anything, I need your water right. What's the certificate number?" Nobody said a word. "Any permit, any decree," Cray said. "I've got the district book in the truck." "The club holds a perpetual easement across the Jennings parcel," Fahey said. "An easement isn't a water right," Cray said. "But let's take them one at a time. Recorded where?" Nora handed him 2 sheets of paper. Certified search of both parcels, dated the 26th of June. Grantor and grantee index back to 1936. One instrument, recorded by me on the 29th of May, revoking a license. Before that, nothing. No easement, no water agreement, no memorandum. In 90 years, there is nothing between these 2 properties except a fence. Fahey looked at it a long time, then tried the only door left. 41 years of open and continuous use, he said. That's a prescriptive easement and everybody here knows it. That's when I handed Cray a manila envelope. 41 photocopies, 1 to a page, in order by year. Every one a check from the Cordera Ridge Golf Club made out to a Jennings for $1. And on every one, in the memo line, in a dozen different hands, the same thing. Irrigation permission. Annual revocable. Cray read the top one out loud, then the one from this past January, then handed the stack to Fahey. "Counselor, you can't get a prescriptive right on permission," he said. "Your club has been asking for it in writing every January since 1986. "Then his right is limited to his own acreage," Fahey said. "He can't deliver it off his parcel." "Supplemental place of use in the 1949 decree on file in my office," Cray said. "Surplus spring flow delivered by ditch. Lawful when his father did it for $1, lawful if he ever sells it. That isn't your door either." "That's a bookkeeping formality," Fahey said. "It's 41 signed admissions," Cray said. "And I'd like you to stop talking now." Fahey did not say another word the rest of the morning. Then I handed Cray the second envelope. "What am I looking at, Mr. Jennings?" "Trail camera, cottonwood over my headgate." He went through them slowly. 22 pictures, stamped with date and time, of a man in a club shirt cutting my padlock at 11:40 at night on the 21st of June, and a pump truck on my ditch bank running 9 nights straight. "Whose crew is this?" Cray said. Nobody answered. 9 nights of stolen water, and all it had bought them was 9 days of green on 4 putting surfaces. He wrote the order on the hood of his truck and read it as he went. Diversion unauthorized. Pump disconnected and sealed inside 24 hours. And the 9 days of taking after the license ended goes to the state for civil penalty. That part isn't mine to forgive. And that is when Alan Dorsey finally opened his portfolio. Mrs. Albright, I have the 2021 loan file in front of me. $4.6 million, secured by the clubhouse and the irrigation system. Page 14 is a representation you signed as president. He turned it so she could see her own name on it. Irrigated in perpetuity, pursuant to a recorded easement, he read. I'd like the recording number, please. Susan looked at that page. Her mouth moved and nothing came out. There isn't one, Nora said. Dorsey closed the portfolio gently, the way you close a door in a house where somebody's asleep. Then the note is in default, he said. Impairment of collateral and a material misrepresentation in the application. My letter reaches your board this week. Nobody said anything after that. Roy Tibbets sat down on the arm of a golf cart. Peggy Lunsford was looking at Susan the way you look at somebody who just told you something about themselves. Out on 11, you could hear a hose slapping dead grass. Susan turned in a slow half-circle in her white trousers and good shoes, looking at 18 fairways that had all been green in March. Then she looked at me. You would do this to your neighbors, she said. Susan, I said, I did it for 41 years for $1. You're the one who put it in writing that it was yours. Here's what it cost them in order. On the 3rd of July, a state contractor sealed the booster pump. Then the club paid to cut its own 10-inch line at the boundary and cap it. Marcus ran that job himself. How's it feel? I asked him. Worst day of my career, he said. Best night of sleep I've had in 4 years. On the 20th of July, Ambler Title and Escrow told every closing agent in the county that no policy would be written on a Cordera Ridge lot until 2 things got fixed. The 2019 amendment recorded against land the association didn't own, and the water claim in its disclosure packet. 11 sales died that month. In August, the state assessed $46,000 for 9 days of unauthorized diversion. That was the padlock they cut. On the 14th of August, the bank accelerated the note. $4,180,000, due in November. Somebody always asks why they didn't drill a well. They tried. Closed basin since 1993, Nora told me. No new groundwater permits in 33 years. To get one now, you buy mitigation credit off a senior right holder in the same reach. How many of those are there? In that reach? She said. 1. You're looking at him in the mirror. Then, on the 28th of August, the association levied a special assessment to cover it. $19,800 a home, on 214 homes. Let me be plain, because people get this wrong. Not one house in Cordera Ridge lost a drop of drinking water. Those homes are on the Ambler Valley District line, same as mine. What went dry was grass. On the 8th of September, the members called a recall vote. Nadine Fisk told me about it at the feed store and couldn't look at me while she did. She told us she'd protected our property values, Nadine said, and Bud Tarleton asked her to read page 14 out loud. Did she read it? Somebody in the back already had. She just sat down. They removed Susan Albright as president, 178-11. On the 23rd of September, they dismissed the lawsuit with prejudice and released the lien. That didn't end it because Nora's counterclaim was still standing. Slander of title filed the week after they sued me over a lien they had no right to record. It settled in November. $61,400 paid to me. In October, the 2019 amendment was released of record. My ground was never in their association, and now the courthouse says so in ink. Susan Albright still lives at Cordera Ridge. She paid $78,000 extra for a lot on the 14th fairway, and there's no market for it. Her window looks out on it. I take no pleasure in that, and won't pretend I take none. On the 23rd of October, 3 men I'd never met came out for a new board and sat at my kitchen table. The oldest did the talking, hat in his lap. "Mr. Jennings, we're not here to ask a favor." "Good." "We want to buy the water, written, recorded, priced." "For how long?" "As long as you'll sell it to us." We signed a 20-year irrigation license, recorded like everything else. $41,000 a year, first year in advance. Dee took the check to the bank. "Well," I said when she got back, "that 19-year-old didn't ask me one single question about this one." Ridgeline Dairy called in February. 900 tons, second and third cutting, same as always. I've had a year to think about the lesson here, and it isn't the one people expect. It isn't that I won because I owned the water. My family owned that water the whole time, and it did us no good for 41 years. I won because they wrote it down wrong, and because when it counted, I let a lawyer, an estate employee, and a bank do everything that happened. I never raised my voice at that woman. I turned a wheel on my own place after 14 days of written notice, on the day my own mail told me to. The other lesson is smaller, and I like it better. Be careful what you take for free from a neighbor. Not because he'll take it back, because one day he might not have a reason not to. The barn is still standing, still too tall, still the wrong color, still in a state of visible agricultural use. Wade fixed that door rail in November. He slid it open and shut about 6 times, then stood there waiting. "Say it," he said. "It's a good rail." "That's not what I'm waiting for." "That's all you're getting," I said. And this past June, I took the coffee can off the shelf inside the barn door. The brush in it was ruined, so I bought a new one, which felt like cheating. I scraped the flakes off that wheel and painted it red, the way my dad did every June, and his dad before him, for no reason anybody ever explained to me. Then I put the brush and the can back on the shelf where they go. Dee was on the porch when I came up. "Well," she said, "it's red." "It's always red, Earl." "That's the idea," I said. "If this one was worth your time, subscribe. I read every comment on these and answer more than you'd think.